Got it.
All right, cool. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm Jason with the City Salt. We're a regional magazine based out of Roanoke. We're excited to have you in town this Thursday on May 16th at the Grandin Theater. So I did kind of a deep dive on just a bunch of hybrid music, trying to figure out how to place where you guys are at. So I read a
We're
recent
here. We're
interview.
right here. Gangstagrass is right in your house. That's where we are.
Absolutely. And so I read a recent interview and saw, Rench, that you're influenced by Graham Parsons and Ralph Stanley and a bunch of 90s stuff like the Beastie Boys and or 80s, I guess, Beastie Boys and that kind of stuff. Where did you end up making the connection to go, with this direct combination of traditional bluegrass and folk music, I guess, with hip hop?
Well, because those are my influences, that's just what started coming to me when I was producing music. I was making beats and I was like, it'd be really cool to get some twangy stuff on top here. Let's put some banjo or some fiddle or something. And at the time, the MCs were like, "No, man." So I kind of had to just start the experimentation myself and grow that into some different projects. And Gangstagrass came together when I was listening to some of that old Ralph Stanley stuff from the '70s, and uh, and just thought it was a perfect setup to add a beat because the bluegrass doesn't have drums, so the instruments are having to be really rhythmic, and so I could really hear how that could lock in. And then I found some excellent MCs that I knew to bring on board and do the thing.
So I think Dolio and Arson, correct me if I'm wrong, but you all are based out of Philly now. And Dolio,
Yes, sir.
you originally from Pensacola.
Yeah, originally from Pensacola. I met Rench when I was living in Brooklyn. Actually, like I met him.
Brooklyn!
Yeah, so I was living there for a few years. I moved here. I guess I moved here at the tail end of '06.
So how does place, whether it be, Southern music and that tradition, figure into the music you're making now versus, Brooklyn's obviously a very different place than Pensacola.
Yeah, very different. Yeah, it's well, but the thing is that New York is one of those places where everybody goes there from all over the country, all over the world, really. So you're able to find these enclaves all over the city where there's cultures that you would not that you obviously know aren't indigenous to New York, but just seems to act as a haven for like Southern culture, really. You'd be shocked to find out there's actually a pretty booming bluegrass scene and a pretty booming honky tonk scene happening in New York. Shoot, there's even bluegrass and honky tonk stuff happening here in Philly, just all over the place. I mean, obviously it's Pennsylvania, so people, there's a lot of Appalachia stuff happening here. So
Mhm. I remember reading about Doc Watson like touring with Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee like up in New
Ooh.
York back in the 60s. So I feel like New York has kind of supported this sort of hybrid music for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the big, bluegrass and folk stuff has actually come out of New York. Woody Guthrie being in New
Sure,
York for a while, Pete Seeger.
sure.
So that's kind of something that a lot of people don't really see, but is definitely been going on is how big New York has been a base for a lot of bluegrass stuff.
Absolutely. And one of the songs I was checking out, The Only Way Out Is Through with Jerry Douglas. Incredible track.
Yeah.
How did that connection happen? Do you have any stories about recording that with Jerry?
Gray
hmm
Fox. That was
Yeah, we
that
were.
was yeah, that was a Gray Fox thing. That was one of the really fun things about this band is that uh we're not just not just spontaneous thinkers, but the band is incredibly improvisational on stage, and also as far as when we tour. So like we decided, we were going to play the dance tent at Gray Fox, and we were going to be there early, and we said, hey, if anybody can't make if anybody can't make their performance for whatever reason, we're still pretty close to all the height of COVID, just like let us know, we'll be there. And we got a call that a band was not able to do their main stage slot headlining the Friday night, and we were of course the first people that they called, and so Gangstagrass ended up doing the headlining slot at Gray Fox on the Friday night, and Jerry Douglas hopped up on stage and played a bunch of songs, and I don't know that anybody has ever played with Gangstagrass and not been immediately persuaded by the greatness. So
It's never happened to
shortly
Yeah,
after that,
yeah, and it's plus it was a pretty tall order for us to be jumping on stage right after Sam Bush.
yes.
Yeah, no
After
doubt.
Sam
He
Bush
was a
with
legend.
Jerry Douglas.
Yeah, with Jerry
And
Douglas.
we'll get that Sam Bush collaboration sooner or later.
Yeah, we've had the opportunity to grace the same stage as him, and we opened up for him at a festival a while back. And he's definitely down with the Gangstagrass train.
That's awesome. Love to hear that. I hope to see that collaboration. So Rench, you brought up percussion or drumming in regards to bluegrass and thought that was a good fit. And I guess when it comes to traditional music, adding drums or taking drums away can really change how a traditionalist would look at things. How do people who, I guess, feel more passionately about traditional music view that aspect of what you're doing?
Our experience has been like the vast majority of the bluegrass fans and the folk music fans hear Gangstagrass. They're like, oh, cool. This is for real, and we like it. And it's just there is that small sliver of purists who don't want anything to be quote unquote, done to their precious bluegrass music, which really is just a myopic garbage idea, because how bluegrass started was Bill Monroe, being influenced by Arthur Schultz on the fiddle, and the Irish traditionals that he was learning on mandolin, and the gospel music that he was hearing down there, and like bringing together existing things into a new combination. And Earl Scruggs, who was really emblematic as the banjo player who developed the three-finger picking, went on to play with a lot of electronic rock, electrified sounds and stuff. So even the big ones of the genre, were part of the idea of the music all blending together. And you can't lock music up and make it stay the same. It's always going to be cross-pollinating.
Absolutely. Arson, if I can go over to you, what was your entry point into this hybrid sort of music and from your musical background?
So it was actually kind of easy for me, just because like I came up, like my dad was a big country music fan. My dad, it was weird. My mom and dad both listened to lots of different music. So my mom, it was mostly like, Tina Marie and Teddy Pendergrass. And my dad was like Jim Croce and Steely Dan. And although they both love Streisand, so
Nice.
it's just kind of weirdly in the middle. And I was born technically 2 weeks after hip hop was, if we're talking about like, the whole August 11th narrative, 73. So I've been in it and with it my whole existence. And so it was easy to sort of develop with that. And then as I started making my own music, having had all that, and, from my mom, my dad, it was easy. It was, so when Dolio called me up and was like, yo, my man is trying to do this thing, and it's some bluegrass hip hop stuff, just check it out. And he sent me like 2 tracks. I was like, all right, yeah, we can do that. That's easy, whatever. And just, the idea of being able to, of how improvisational bluegrass is, and doing a lot of freestyling and whatnot. Lyrically, it was just an easy thing to do, and really easy to make them work together.
When you all are making music, are you, improvising on the instruments while also freestyling?
You'll see a lot of that on stage. You'll see a lot of, when the solos are happening, and quite honestly, I think a lot of it is because I'm just too lazy to remember a lot of my verses that I wrote. You know what I mean? It tests me. I'm getting old, and so I gotta keep my brain sharp. And some people do crossword puzzles and word searches, and I just make up rhymes and whatnot. And so that's an easy way to do it. And then when we're live, it's more fun to sort of play with the crowd and what's going on and that kind of thing, and make it so that it works and that it builds all, and that the wordplay is fairly interesting enough such that people are like, oh wow, he just did that, and so on and so forth. So and because I don't play any instruments, right, and everybody in the band that's ever been in this band played like 9 different instruments. Like Rench plays like the zither, and he plays the washboards, and he plays the spoons, and he plays I saw him get down on a pair of chicken bones once. It was ridiculous. And so I just gotta, I'm just trying to keep up, to be totally honest. And so just doing that just kind of helps me just stay involved with the whole thing.
So what influences the lyrics that you come up with? Is it other MCs, or is it literature, or where does it come from?
All kinds of stuff. I don't know if you can see the background there, but there's like, it's all just like comic book stuff back there.
Okay,
Right?
yeah, I see the figures, I think.
Right. I'm a big comic book dude.
Cool.
And so a lot of the sort of random references will come from there, you know what I mean? There's in the one of the songs on the album, I said, Last Son of Krypton, Fist of the North Star, Speed Racer, Dream Chaser, whipping in a sports car. I'm gonna put it on y'all and beat up the track like I'm headed for the Ponfar, you know what I mean? And so if you're a Star Trek person, you know what the Ponfar is, right? And so you're like, oh wow, like, and so it's, for me, that's where a lot of it comes from. That's where it all builds, and it's fun to put that out there and have the 2 or 3 people that know what I'm talking about get it, and they're like, did you just, yeah. So but it's whatever, it's just whatever is interesting enough to fit in a space lyrically. And then if we're doing a particular song idea, that sort of thing, that's one thing. A lot of in a lot of those instances, I'm just trying to keep up with Dolio because this dude is so nice on the mic, you know what I'm saying? But if it's just sort of like, let's just drop some stuff, it'll get really random. It'll get really, really random, but it's fun like that. You know what I mean? It's a lot of fun to be able to do that, to see who's really listening, right? To see who's really listening and who's really catching, what they're catching and who's paying attention.
That's cool. What was the connection between you and Dolio that led to this whole thing coming together?
I met this dude in a cypher in '99. I was up at Penn State. I spent the decade of the '90s at Penn State University. That's where I really started making music and stuff, and really started building. And I'm literally outside of a bar one night with a bunch of cats that I knew. We were just out there rhyming, whatever. And I'm like, who this cat? And Dolio just showed up. It was new in town, dropped some bars. I was like, oh, okay, this dude is dope. So we met that night. This was '99, and it was a lot of back and forth, and I was here and he was there, and he was there and I was here, and but we stayed connected, you know what I mean? And it was just the idea of finally being able to connect and make some music together and build. And honestly, it's one of probably the best partnership that I've ever had with an MC, and shout outs to, everybody else I've ever gotten down with, my man Louis Logic and my man Shanti that really got me started, my flight brother Ad Liberal. But Me and D have done so much together over the last, decade plus that I feel myself getting better working with him. You know what I mean? And it's really an idea of I have to stay sharp and get sharper because this dude is so talented. And then it doesn't help that everything that Rench is putting together is a banger, and I can't come whack on a bang. I can't come whack on a bang beat. That's just wrong.
It's like they say, broccoli sharpens broccoli.
Facts. Facts. It's the truth there.
Will you tell us along those lines how the songwriting process works? Or, I mean, even if you want to narrow it down to a couple of the new singles, Up High, Do or Die, or Obligatory Braggadocio, how did those songs come together? How did it start? And
We come at different things. Like we could start anywhere. Like some songs, they start, based on a verse or something that the MCs were doing, or we could start with a beat that I was coming up with, or we could start from a bluegrass jam that the instrumentalists do and build from there. And the nice thing is that different starting places kind of generate a different kind of energy. So, some have more of a hip hop production direction, and some of them have more of a bluegrass jam feeling. But in the case of our latest single, Obligatory Bag of Oreos, it started with just Dan laying down a dobro recording, and he was he's been learning to play the dobro just at the last couple of years, and it was the first thing I think he was recording to send in, and we just happened to have a studio session right after that. So I hadn't done anything with it, and we just rolled the 3 minutes of this dobro, and the MCs recorded verses just to that.
Yeah.
And then we built the rest later. So we can come at it from all kinds of starting points.
That's if I could go back to Dolio real quick. So when you met Arson around 99, what were you up to when you had just come to town?
Well, I had just graduated from MIT, and I had my first job as in this software consultancy, and our first client was the main client of the company was Penn State, and I had taken this job, being persuaded to come there because it was a college town. But since I went to college in Cambridge, Boston area, my idea of a college town was a town that had like 50-some colleges. I didn't know he meant like a town that only existed because there was a college there.
Right.
Yeah.
So obviously I didn't know anybody when I got there, but I'd always been involved in the hip hop scene. So that was the way that I navigated. So like if I didn't know anybody in town, I knew that if I jumped in the cypher, I could find out what's popping. So, I was, just cruising downtown, just kind of chilling. And, I pulled up my lowrider, just kind of parked it, saw a bunch of folks rhyming on the street. I jumped in the cypher
and said, "My name is Dolio. I'm here to say."
Not in those exact words, but you catch the vibe. And when you jump in the cypher, it's basically just kind of like this, sparring of words, to see who the nicest is. And I was the new cat in town, so I obviously had to flex my pen.
He definitely flexed. I said, like, and I had been, like I said, I've been in State College for at this point 8 years, and so the Penn State hip hop scene, such that it was, revolved around my squad, quite honestly. Like there were a couple of guys that put out some records from up there that really did their thing, and that we all kind of came together from there. And so we were doing radio at the time, and all sorts of stuff. We had had all kinds of things happening, and so there was nothing happening in Penn State hip hop that wasn't us, right? That we didn't know. So D rolled. I was like, "Oh, this is a new face," and murked the joint. I was like, "All right, cool. Let's get it. I need to know who this boy is."
Yeah.
And 25 years later, we still getting it in.
Yeah, and I kind of always felt the pressure. Like I always kind of felt the pressure of having to, exhibit skill, because of the fact that at the time in the 90s, Other than like Outkast, there wasn't like hip hop was still very regional.
Okay.
And me coming from the Gulf Coast, during the 90s, a lot of us Southern MCs felt more intense pressure to prove to these cats that we could rhyme. And I was like letting folks know I was no slouch.
In the slightest.
And so, Rench, how did you come to meet Dolio and Arson?
So I was in Brooklyn and I was experimenting with some honky tonk hip hop project. And at one point, Dolio had just moved to Brooklyn, and he can tell you what happened to him at that point.
Yeah, I had just quit music altogether. I had sold all my gear, moved to New York. But it turns out if you're trying to quit music, New York is not a city to move to.
Mhm.
Because I got pulled right back
Don't
in like two
don't
days
move to the
later,
city that Rench is in,
especially when Rench
basically.
is there.
So, you all have also done some music for like film and TV and stuff, I think.
Hmm.
How did you end up making that come about?
Um, Mostly with threats.
A lot of gaff tape.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And also just some random lightning strikes of luck, having the theme song to Justified just came out of people in their promotions department. I think actually like searching for bluegrass and hip hop, and
Mhm.
Gangstagrass came out at the top of those search results, and I just got a call out of the blue from folks being like, we want to use some of this for our new show coming up. So you know, I guess my advice to anybody is make sure your phone is charged.
I like that.
I can't tell you much else to do than that.
Make
Hey,
sure
answering
you-
the phone's a big part of making your
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
So what can we expect at the show coming up? I know it's kicking off your tour. Is there going to be new songs you're doing for the first time?
Probably. And
We
a few songs from this new album so people can get a little preview there.
And so,
And mainly when you come and see Gangstagrass, you don't know what you're gonna see. You're gonna see us being spontaneous, like we talked about. The improvisation from hip hop, the improvisation from bluegrass fit right together. And so we capitalize on that. Our son can freestyle a verse as long as he wants, and he'll kick it back to the instrumentalist to do a solo or a chorus or something. So we might change up the structure of a song right there on the spot. And the whole energy is about you know just doing the songs and seeing where they go and having that back and forth with the audience.
do you all change up the set list too from night to night?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
a lot of bands have like a rule where you can't record anything, or you can't do it, you can't record anything except after the first three songs and stuff like that. Gangstagrass has no such rules. Like, take video, take photos, do the thing, because the show is different every night. You're not going to spoil anything for anybody,
Every night.
because and especially if you can catch our son doing one of his many freestyle verses. In Roanoke, he'll be talking about like I-81. He'll be talking about, the person he was chatting to before the show.
If
He might
your
talk about some
t-shirt
of our
has something
past shows.
funny on it and you're near the
Yes,
front,
that's
it's probably
right.
going to end up in one of our songs that night.
That's right. And then we had to Bloomington, Illinois and Lexington, Kentucky. And he's not going to be talking about I-81 in Bloomington, Illinois. He's going to be talking about, I don't know, whatever sports team they have in Bloomington, Illinois. I don't know if they do. But it's truly different every night. It's very dynamic. And the Roanoke folks know that, because like we've sold out the spot a couple of times.
Cool.
The Roanoke shows are always wild.
Awesome. I love to hear that. Sleeves, how did you get into artist management? Weren't you writing for papers and stuff previous to this?
Yeah, I was a journalist like you, bud. But you might have heard journalism fell apart from the inside.
Yeah.
And I was at the Washington Post when that happened. So I was just sort of watching it crumble, and I was watching some of the best reporters get buyouts. They weren't trying to let go of people like me. I was young and underpaid. But they were definitely trying to get rid of the people who had been there for decades and were very expensive. And so they were all taking buyouts, and we were just losing institutional memory left and right. And I started to see bad things happening in the editing process. I had quotes that were changed. I got them changed back, but like the fact that that was happening at all just signaled this massive drop in journalistic standards. And I think in large part because of the lack of institutional memory, or the loss of institutional memory, and the people who knew those standards cold. And so I ended up deciding to find a place that still cared about depth and accuracy, which was the Hoover Institution out of Stanford University. So I'm
And
with,
Gangstagrass. We
well,
care about
that's,
depth and
well,
accuracy.
that was
too.
how you do care about depth and accuracy. That's
Yeah.
real. Rench is making a joke, but that's real.
Mhm.
I feel really grateful that I'm able to combine these things, because with a research and editing job, I mean, I'm in the office in DC a bunch, and I'm also doing that work on the road remotely. And I was able, because I no longer had to work 24/7, even when I was on vacation, like I did at the Post. I was able to go see shows and meet people. And I met these guys, and I loved what they were doing. My dad played bluegrass, and I was a hip hop kid. So like it also made just like it made perfect sense to Dolio, it made perfect sense to our son, it made perfect sense to me. And then they just kind of adopted me and started bringing me on the road, and it just kind of grew from there. And now I manage all of the things and wrangle all of the cats, and we've expanded a lot too under this this in this combination that we have to get into educational things. And that's where the depth and accuracy comes in. It's true. These guys have a great depth of knowledge about the music and about where the genres come from, and we take that around the country. We take it to schools, we take it to conferences, we take it to audiences, everywhere from like universities to brew pubs to political conventions. So I get to try to help bring about a more fully informed electorate, and bring people together across differences with shared accurate information in a way that I never would have even thought of. So thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
No
So
doubt.
is Gangstagrass, along those lines, what's the takeaway you want people to have when they see a Gangstagrass show or listen to an album? Is it a political message? Is it just a good time? Is it a historical message?
It's a message for their booty and how much it
Yeah.
needs to be shaking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the first political statement for them to take in is the good time. And just, working up a sweat, dancing to Gangstagrass and having a good time. And, from there you can delve into some of the ideas, but mainly we're really enjoying the music that we make. It's just, it's a good time. We like the sound, and we love getting all kinds of different people into the same room, dancing together to something that might not usually be in the same room together.
Right.
love
And
that.
then, yeah, and then once we get those people together, then conversations start happening, and people start seeing that, a lot of the divisions that people perceive are artificially so. And then they start to, start thinking, okay, maybe if we're not so different, and maybe things would be better if we all did well.
We all do better when we
Great
all
quote.
do better.
The great quote. And I hate the fact that it's a great quote from a terrible person, but
Uh-oh.
you come to a Gangstagrass show, and if you ain't careful, you might learn something before it's done. One of my favorite quotes ever, and I don't like to say who said it, but it's a good idea.
Oh, it's pretty close to a quote from a wonderful person, the great and legendary Ferris Bueller. You know,
Hmm.
life moves pretty fast. Don't stop and look around once in a while. You could miss it. And if you look around at a Gangstagrass show, you will see that those supposed differences, you know, what society, what media, what politicians are saying are big differences, and they're incentivized. They make money trying to separate people by those differences. They're not just political. They're generational. And when you look around at a Gangstagrass show, you are going to see little kids, and the Roanoke show is all ages. You're going to see little kids, and we don't make it too loud either. So it's, we're not trying to damage anybody's hearing. You're going to see like little kids dancing like maniacs in the front row. You're going to see teenagers getting
You're
into
gonna
it,
see
singing along to
tiny
songs.
premature babies.
We
And
sell
you're gonna
onesies.
see you're
We have
gonna
Gangstagrass
see
onesies.
somebody in an iron lung with polio from 1936. You're gonna see all kinds of everything. You're gonna see robots. You're gonna see ninjas. You're gonna see cowboys. You're gonna see dinosaurs. It's all there, man. Everybody's
More
coming
than
together.
half of that is true. You will see cowboys. You might see robots. I don't know. You'll see a vet in a World War II jacket, or Vietnam jacket. Somebody who's like really been there and is like gray haired and gray bearded and also shaking it with everybody else, just into it, singing along, big smile. And all these folks come up to the guys after the show and they're like, I've never seen anything like this. I want more of this, or the whole family comes up, I love this music. So I brought my parents and my kids, and we're all here together, and they'll pose for pictures. And it's just, it's beautiful to see, man. It's beautiful to see. So make sure you let
You
everybody
won't see the
know.
ninjas unless they want you to see them.
Yeah, right. You won't see
Yeah.
the ninjas, but they're there. They're there.
Definitely there, but
Yeah.
Beautiful description. I can't wait for the show. We've been on for like 30 minutes now, so I won't keep you all night. I know it's getting late. You've had a
Yeah,
bunch
we
of
could.
meetings.
We got our obligatory bag of Oreos.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I can't wait to see you Thursday, and I'll come introduce myself.
Oh yeah.
cool.
Come say hi for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. We're looking
Have a great
forward to it.
night. And,
Roanoke, it's gonna get crazy.
Yeah, you.
yeah.
Thanks, Jason.
Bye,
Nice, Jay.
everyone. Thank you.
All
Peace.
right, thanks.